President Trump is following through on his campaign promise to cut regulations and let businesses prosper. More than 90 regulations have been delayed, suspended, or reversed. How do you like that? In the president's first month in office. And the markets have been rallying big time over the government getting out of the way. Just take a look at how the markets have been faring since this election. We are up better than 14% there on the Dow, 11% on the S&P, NASDAQ trading up more than 12%. But, you know, the liberal media, they cannot give the president any credit for these markets. So take a look at this headline we've got here in today's New York Times. Leashes come off Wall Street, gun sellers, polluters, and more. David Bossie, a Fox News contributor and former deputy campaign manager for Donald Trump, joins me now. David, you see how they characterize it there in the New York Times. In other words, less regulation is somehow bad. I would say less regulation is somehow very good. And I'll tell you, the markets really seem to like Trump economic policies. What is your take on all of this in terms of the interpretation by the media and what is actually happening in the real world?
Well, look, you know, the New York Times will always say conservatives want dirty air, dirty water. They want their children to be poisoned. It is unbelievable that they come up with this. Look, destroying the destruction of the administrative state. You know, a comment by my friend Steve Bannon and former colleague Steve Bannon a couple of weeks ago got everyone's attention. And the markets are paying attention because the leash is not off of the bad guys. The leash is off the job creators. And that's what the market is recognizing.
But, David, that's an important point here, because I'll tell you, a lot of people on the left see big business not as a job creator, but as very much the enemy. I think back to when I was a young reporter in a San Francisco newsroom, and Enron went down, and there were actually, believe it or not, cheers in that newsroom. And it, you know, granted it was San Francisco, but there was a contingency there among the reporting staff that wanted to see a company like Enron go down because Enron was big, bad, and awful. And I remember looking around the room and saying to them, no, you guys, you don't understand. This is really, really bad. Yeah. I mean, there are thousands of employees that have their 401ks wrapped up in Enron stock. I mean, this is going to be really terrible. Well, but it taught me early on the media's impression of big business.
Yeah, and there were millions of Americans who lost a lot of money in the stock market because of Enron. These people, they're very short-sighted. Look, elections have consequences. And Scott Pruitt and Mick Mulvaney and a cabinet full of people, you know, like Governor Perry, now Secretary Perry, who are going to go in there, and Wilbur Ross, looking for places, every nook and cranny where the left over the last 8 years has put in regulations to, one, increase costs and really create an opportunity, really the inability for companies to hire new employees, to not make a profit, to have to spend more of their money on litigation fees.
Stuck in all that red tape. You know, I talked to Carl Icahn about this very recently. Carl Icahn, the billionaire investor, and he said, look, yes, I'm a good American. I want to invest in American companies, but sometimes I'll tell you, that darn EPA, they make it so darn difficult. And they really, they don't provide the right incentives. So his whole platform has been, and he's been an advisor to Donald Trump, look, get rid of this regulation. Get rid of it so that we can all put money to work, and that results in job creation and economic growth. Simple. Econ 101, David.
Yeah, that's right. And I'm not an economist, but even I know that. And that's right. Look, that's what the president ran on. It's one of the main staples of his campaign was, we are going to drain the swamp. We are going to repeal and replace. We are going to create investment and jobs. Well, and one of those ways is going to be to cut regulations.
Yeah, and we hope that keeps happening, you know, despite all these distractions that are leading the headlines right now between Russia and wiretaps, et cetera. Anyway, David, good to see you. Thank you very much for joining us.